Oh, okay. So this is the Frick building in New York City. I think if you got my email, you know a little bit about it. It was built by the Henry Clay Frick family, very wealthy industrialist. And about it was built about 1913, and then it became a museum for his art collection in 1935. And it has anyone been there,
No.
Frick, in Manhattan? If you go to New York, make sure you go there. People go to the Met and the MoMA, but go to the Frick because it has an extraordinary collection of some of the greatest paintings you've ever seen, coming out of the high era of European painting. And also because my daughter works there, so you can go there and say hello to her. But um, it is. I'll just mention this: the architectural style was a popular style around this time called Beaux Arts, and it was Beaux Arts was based on French neoclassicism, but it also incorporated Renaissance and Baroque styles, and it used modern materials like iron, glass, and steel. They say. Um, and it was an important style. Beaux Arts was an important style in Europe and America going into the 20th century. And then I think maybe it got kind of replaced by Art Deco. I think that's how it went. And also, I did mention in the email, I gave you an article about the recent renovation of the Frick. Did anyone read that? Oh, go
Yeah,
back and read it. Andrew, I
I,
think you told me
I
about
read
it.
it.
I
Yeah.
I read it.
Okay. What'd you think about that? They made a
It's,
big fuss. Go ahead.
yeah, they some controversy regarding some of the rooms.
Right. In particular, it was the garden room, I think.
Yeah, the garden room, taking that
And
away.
and they managed to save it. And I made the comment, I've heard this many times that in New York, they're really, really fussy about their architecture, which is good, to have a community that wants to preserve the architectural gems of the past. So, and there are a lot of them in Manhattan. You'd be surprised. You think it's all skyscrapers, but you find these little gems like the Frick Museum. So let's look at some of these paintings and tell me if you agree or disagree with me. Oh, this is the inside, the main court when you go in with the vaulted glass ceiling. And they lived here for a while. And I always say when I'm talking to the Frick about people who haven't been there, I say it's like these movies, the movies from the 30s, especially where they're always they live in these mansions. They were Depression era movies coming out of Hollywood that people went to them, people who were suffering from the Depression went to them as a form of escape. So they were often about very wealthy people that lived in great big mansions like this. They had a ballroom right in their house. So it's a very beautiful courtyard with some of the sculpture. But let's take a look now at some of the paintings. Who's this?
Vermeer.
Vermeer.
Yeah, they have three Vermeers. I think that's
Wow.
most in one place anywhere. So this is a great one, great Vermeer. Um, and also, I have to say this now: if you haven't read The Art Thief yet, read it because it's about this couple in France who stole art from little museums around Europe, like the Frick. The Frick is very small, but it has this incredible collection of these paintings. Here's another one. And I was enthralled the first time I went there because I've always been big on Vermeer. And you get to stand right up next to it and look at it. And everyone's seen this one before, haven't they?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. And he does, I won't dwell on this too much, but I just want to I'm really trying hard to get my students to think past subject matter and just look at how the eye moves through a painting. And you can see there's kind of a zigzagging thing that happens from the lower left corner across the arms and up to the maid face. And then look at how he echoes that zigzag in the ribbon and the bun of her hair. See
Mhm.
that? And the folds of the cloth. So he's very aware of form, what the forms are doing in the composition.
So I love that when you repeat something, you know, they talk about composition in terms of almost music, you know, or
Yeah.
you know these things. So when you repeat,
That's
you
a
know,
good, yeah.
it creates rhythm, right? When
Yeah.
you repeat, it creates rhythm. No,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's
Look-
it's pleasurable to the eye.
yeah, right.
Rhythm, and I think musicality is the word that comes to mind for me a lot. Also, just poetry. There's a kind of flow and like a soft bounce around the painting.
Mhm.
It
Nice.
speeds up. The eye does speed up in some places, like
Mhm.
objects on the tabletop. Then it
Mhm.
slows down in others.
Nice. Yeah, that's great observation.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm glad you brought that up, Patrick, about the music. So one more Vermeer. They have this beautiful Vermeer, a darker one. There's one at the Gardner Museum in Boston too, a Vermeer that's very dark. But again, just look at that manuscript of music that curls over the tabletop and touches the corner, touches her knee visually. And then you go back up it and follow it to the other where it becomes very narrow. We see the edge of it and how it kind of pokes into the center of that blue vase, which then the blue vase seems to be reacting to being poked, and then it squeezes up as you go up.
Hmm.
And then that expands into the back of the rest of the chair behind it. And then we go up into, you know, the whole space of the room. So um, this is how we have to learn to think about space and painting. There are many approaches to it, and it doesn't have to be realistic. It could be abstract painters too.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so they have three great Vermeers. Who else do they have that's at the top of the list? Right after Vermeer, who do you think of in great European painting?
Manet.
Close.
Manet.
They, Rembrandt, I would say, from the Baroque period. And this is the Polish writer, famous Rembrandt painting
Hmm.
from 1650. And here's another great self-portrait by Rembrandt. I think you're familiar with this one. Self-portrait with walking stick. Why do you think he did so many self-portraits?
He did a lot. I know that.
He did a lot, yeah.
Why?
You know, compared to Vermeer, and even here we see it, he was more painterly than Vermeer. Vermeer did have a surface to the paintings, but it's very subdued compared to Rembrandt, who just kind of, in places like in this collar area here, he just gobbed at the paint on. And then when it dried, the whiter, lighter paints that he gobbed on like that, when it was really, really dry, he would glaze over it and then wipe the glaze off. So the glaze would wipe off the high points of the white paint, but it would settle into the crevices.
Mhm.
And that's a big part of how he achieves this kind of luminosity.
Mhm.
Try it. We're going to try it in class again. I did it once, but I'm going to do it again. And here's another Rembrandt portrait. It's called Portrait of a Young Artist, who was this painting may have been by a follower of Rembrandt, but it's a wonderful portrait, very beautifully composed. And they had workshops. These great artists had workshops and people who worked under them, apprentices, and sometimes they became very recognized artists as well.
Why do you think he had so many self-portraits?
I don't really know that. I mean, there
Oh.
are things. One is that if you get up and paint every day, and you don't have a model handy and you really, really want to paint faces, you
Mhm.
paint yourself.
Could have
And
been.
it's not, I've done a lot of them.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily about you. I never think of myself when I'm painting, and I'm just painting what I see.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. Now, here's another Rembrandt portrait. This guy, who knows who he is, but there were people with money that could pay. Rembrandt was a very successful portrait painter, so they paid big bucks to get Rembrandt to paint them. And I don't know if this is like over cleaned or what, but it's a very bright painting for Rembrandt. But again, just a stunning, I think, a stunning composition, very penetrating examination of the human face. Now, I know some people would go at it and look at what was written on that paper he's holding, and I never think of those things.
Mhm.
At some point, you would want to know that, but I don't know the story behind the painting. It's from 1631. And now I'm going to show you my favorite painting anywhere, at any museum, but especially at the Frick. And this artist who influenced me more than any other painter did. I was just obsessed with him for a long, long time. I had a reputation in Iowa for who? I'm training you to have an answer. It is that great Spanish painter from
Velasquez.
yeah, Velasquez. King Philip IV, Spain, and Velasquez was the court painter. He painted king and queen in the court many times. Las Meninas is the best known, which I have not seen in the Prado. But what people look at it, they think it's just boring. Many people do, but there are many things I could point out, like the angularity, the angular arrangement of the arms and the stick baton that he's holding, and the hat. The hat's a triangle. And then these triangles take us up to the face. And he kind of looks like an important person, doesn't he? But more than that, what I've always loved about Velasquez, and especially apparent in this one, is he has this kind of silvery light in his paintings. It's a cool light. Even with the warm flesh tones, it just has a feeling of, you can almost feel the moistness of the cool air in the castle there.
He had LED bulbs before anybody else did.
Say that again?
He had the LED bulbs before anybody else did.
That might have been, yeah. Well, he did also, as an instructor told us this once in Iowa, and I wrote to him later to ask him. I wasn't sure if it was true, but he said that Velasquez he would keep his paintings in the studio for months until he was sure they were 100% dry. Then he'd put a very thin glaze of Viridian green over the whole thing. And then probably wipe it in places like the face. But Viridian green, the real Viridian, not phthalo green, it's a very subtle, coolish color. And I experimented with it, but I never really got the effect that I thought I might get. But I just love the light in Velasquez more than anything. Now, this is another one. I stood in front of this. It's right in the front part of the Frick when you walk in. Above they have beautiful furniture throughout the Frick. Like, there's a little round marble table. Like at museums like the DIA, they have a rope in front of it so you don't get too close. Well, at the Frick, they have this beautiful green marble table on a brass stand that's about waist high. So you can't just reach over and rub your hand on the painting. But I stood there more than once at the Frick and just stared at this painting for a long time. It is Ingres, Comtesse de Hassonville from 1845. Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres. It's Ingres. These notes are in your email. And if you don't know who Ingres was, you need to look him up, okay? What's wrong, though? What seems off about this painting?
I don't know if that right arm is in the right perspective.
That's
Oh,
It looks,
yeah,
it looks weird, like too low or something.
totally.
that's exactly it. But we talked about that when I was at Iowa, and somebody said, insisted that, and it's true. If you look at his other paintings, he deliberately distorted things to fit the flow of the eye through the painting.
Wow.
You could see it in other paintings. It's just kind of weird. It's kind of weird
Mhm.
once you know what that's there. Weird.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah. It didn't jump out at me. But eventually it did. Eventually I recognized it.
Yeah.
And he shows us a nice reflection of the back of her head. If you're gonna paint, if you're a painter, at some point you have to do a painting that includes a mirror in some way. Every painter does it.
Mhm.
Okay. You see a lot of them. I've done it many times. And now this is another one that is a great portrait from 1470s. I'm not in strict chronological order here, but it's just by a portrait called Portrait of a Man by Hans Memling. And I thought when I found this and put it in here, I thought it was one of the paintings that they stole in the Art Thief. But I asked Grok, I asked AI to give me a list of all the paintings that were stolen in the Art Thief.
Mhm.
And it's amazing. It spits it out in like 5 seconds.
Mhm.
And I don't know how it can read a book that fast, but this was not one of them, but there was one like it. I don't know if it was Memling, but a very small Northern Renaissance painting that would have been similar to this. And it's a cool painting. I mean, it's perfectly rendered. And I like how I don't know what's going on with the hand, but I like it that way. He's holding something. He's holding a scarf, maybe. And he gives us that little, see the collar? He gives us that little cutout of the collar,
Mm.
just allowing the eye to escape and move around.
It looks like he's holding a bag with his hand there because you can see something going over his shoulder.
Yeah, yeah. But the way it crops the hand is peculiar, but it works for me.
Mhm.
Hans Holbein was another Northern Renaissance painter. This is from 1527.
Mm.
This is Sir Thomas More. Who was Sir Thomas More?
Philosopher, maybe?
Yeah, I meant to do more background reading on this, but there's a movie a while back called The Man for All Seasons,
Mm.
and he got in big trouble with the church for something, and I can't recall what it was.
It was more that he got in trouble with Henry VIII.
It was what?
It was more that he got in trouble with Henry VIII.
Oh, you're
because
right.
He was the Lord Chancellor,
Yes.
and then he stepped down, and Henry was pursuing the divorce, and eventually More got caught up in that and executed.
Yes. Okay. Thanks. Who's
I'm trying to be concise.
Susan?
He's actually one of my in the Catholic Church he's Saint Thomas More also.
That's right. I was going to say
And-
that.
And so I've read a lot about him, so
Okay, I'm glad you came in with that because I was planning to refresh my memory. Yeah, he was St. Thomas More. He was canonized. He was killed by the Henry VIII, and his arch enemy was who?
Oh
Cromwell.
well, like
Thomas Cromwell.
well, yeah, Cromwell. Yes, yeah. Oh well, I know why you're going to ask that.
Now, here's why.
Yeah.
Hans Holbein also painted Thomas Cromwell. How ironic is that?
Hmm.
It'd be like if you painted Donald Trump and then you also painted their name, the other,
Kamala?
Kamala. If you painted them both and you didn't tell them and then they found out. So I have to do more reading about that. I'm glad you do something about it, Susan.
Yeah, yeah, and the the movie is just if
The
you know
Man for All
if people
Seasons?
haven't seen it, the movie or the play. I've
Yeah.
never seen it performed as a play, but it really rocks. Let's just
Yeah, I remember we had to, we went to catechism and the priest made us go see Man for All Seasons. I mean, this was a long time ago, so I need to review it, but I just thought I did not know that Hans Holbein painted both of them. Okay, Titian, of course, the great Italian painter, 1537. I don't know who this guy is. I mean, I have his name here, but it doesn't matter. But I love the painting, and especially Titian really got loose with the paint. He was a great Venetian colorist. The Venetians had a different sense of color down in southern Italy compared to up in Florence. And Titian's a great example of it, but this guy looks like, I don't know what word I would use to describe him. He's obviously rotund, but such beautifully harmonized earth colors in the whole painting, isn't there?
Mhm.
And he captures with loose brushstrokes the silk-like quality of the sleeves and can contrast that to the fur texture of the other thing that he is on, and the beard and all these textures going on. And he sort of uses all those same colors in the background, but varies it around the background. So yeah, Titian is really a great one to look at. Now, go ahead.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
All the works you've shown us so far just reminds me of, and I've been thinking about this all day and recently, just this idea of making slow art.
Mhm.
Art that is, you can obvious that it's been built over some time, right?
Yeah.
This is not alla prima, right?
Well, are you talking about how long it took you to do the art, or how long a person can find nourishment by looking at it? Or both?
Yeah, kind of both. I think there's probably crossover there.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking about taking more time with a piece,
Mhm.
to put those hours in that it takes to build a painting
Mhm.
that shows that. I don't know. I don't really have the words, but an instructor, Jim Noira, who's a great watercolorist
Yeah.
in Wayne State. He gave us this handout. I think it was Robert Storr, who's a New York artist critic, famous.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And he talks about slow art, and he's like, what we need more of is slow art, not like McDonald's, right? Fast food, but
Yeah.
art. And I think he's talking about what you brought up, art that makes the viewer, slow down.
Mhm.
Right. It's not this versus sensational, shock,
Yeah.
quick. But everything you're showing is there's so much time built into these paintings. It seems like to me, I would think these are not dashed off.
No.
And then they also take us, the viewer. It just forces me to slow down and look at this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And there are subtleties with paintings that are, I think, really good paintings that you don't notice right away. And a lot of people think well, this is boring. But I think you have to learn to look at painting.
Mhm.
And yes, I don't know what their explanation is for the world that we live in, where it's all consumerism and throw it away. But art, what's that Latin expression? Art is long, life is short.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, let's see. This is I love this. Has anyone seen this painting?
This
Before?
Candy Pearl.
I don't know.
George Romney painted it. No, not that George Romney. If you're old enough to remember, but he was an English portrait painter. It's called Lady Hamilton as Nature. I don't know what that all the story behind why he titled it that, but it's just stunning, you know, beauty in so many ways.
Mhm.
1782. This is a little grim, but I love Goya. This is a portrait of a lady by Goya from 1824. And if you haven't studied Goya, you should. The portraits, he was a portrait painter to the rich and powerful, but he did a lot of other like politically oriented paintings and just paintings, and he was just a master of the brush, and I wanted to get one in here. And I came across one of Goya's little ink wash studies, so I wanted to throw that in. And we used to feel that looking at it, these great artists, when you look at their drawings, like this looks like it was just torn out of a page, a scrapbook or something. If you look at their drawings, often they capture more than you get in the final painting. I love this little study. So this is another important painter to me, Chardin, Jean-Simeon Chardin. This is called Lady with a Bird Organ from 1753. What's wrong with her? If she stood up, how tall would she be?
Yeah, she has too many leg, too much
many
leg.
Too much like
Yeah.
she would be
Well,
really
Her
Be
torso-
7 foot tall.
her torso is huge. I mean,
yeah.
the distance between her neck and her her waist, and then yes, she'd be like 7 foot tall.
Yes, at least, and maybe the head. It's just that the head's too small.
Maybe that's
It's
it.
all relative to everything else in the picture, but nonetheless, it's a pretty remarkable painting. And I have to remind you, because I have to remind myself, the reason I'm showing you all these is you can see them all in one place in the Frick Museum in New York. And this is the next is. Oh, this one I was not familiar with it. It's just a very odd painter, Francois Boucher, I think it's pronounced, or Boucher, a lady on her daybed. Now I don't know what that means and what it's all about, but it's an odd little painting, and it's at the Frick. Now this, I'm sure you've seen before. Very famous painting by Bellini, Giovanni Bellini, St. Francis in the Desert from 1480. Another one of those northern Renaissance paint, not too far north, but later Renaissance, 1480. And just you can study this. If you get a good reproduction of on the internet, you can find a really good one. Even better than this, and you can enlarge it on your monitor and just study the detail throughout. Just amazing. The animals and the different plants. And this is another very powerful flagellation scene by Cimabue. Now, this is going back to 1280. So it's basically a medieval painting before the Renaissance. The Flagellation of Christ by Cimabue. Remarkable little painting. And look at their perspective in those buildings. I don't know the whole story about the controversy of perspective, but I don't think that they were dumb and they couldn't figure it out. I think they just that was not what the interest was and what they were trying to do in these kinds of painting. There is. Go ahead, Patrick.
I was just going to ask, was it Da Vinci that really brought it to the surface? Perspective?
It was actually Uccello that was first given credit for it.
Okay.
Pier Paolo Uccello. You can see it in his paintings. I had a really good Italian Renaissance history class
Hmm.
at Iowa, and the guy took so long on the early Renaissance that we never got to the consider the high. But I mean, this guy was like an authority on that period of painting, and he really went into depth about. There's actually a quote from Uccello where his wife wanted him to come to bed. And he said, "This perspective is such a sweet thing." So he'd rather be figuring out perspective.
Hmm.
You never know if that's historical or not, but you can look at he painted those beautiful altarpiece. They were like predella and altarpieces,
Oh, yes.
battle
Yes.
scenes, right?
Yeah.
San
Crazy.
Romano, yeah. And you
Yeah.
can see the
And,
foreshortening of the horses and everything.
right. Yep. Yep.
And also, you can go back and look at much earlier Roman frescoes and see evidence of linear perspective more than you see in these buildings here. So, I don't know what to make of that, but it's really not that hard to figure out. If they could build the Colosseum, they could figure out a perspective drawing.
Yeah. You would think.
So here is it. Now let's get to this again. Back to Dutch Northern painting, Van Ruysdael from 1652, landscape with a footbridge. It's just wonderful. Now we're all landscape painters, right? In one way or another, aren't we? We have the plein air group and everything. So I want everyone to start coming up. I want to see paintings like this from everyone, starting with me. In some ways, I'd rather not have the horse and the people in it. What do you think? And the little bird. See the two little birds up there?
Yeah, the people detract a little bit from your focus.
Mm-hmm.
I think you want to focus on the bridge and the water, and your eye keeps going to the left to the people and the horse.
Well, the people are probably talking about whether they really want to go across that bridge with those horses.
It's too small.
It looks quite rickety.
He's captured that so atmospheric, right? The whole scene is so expansive and atmospheric. I mean, he's a master, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That there's almost no need for the figures and the animals, because it's just so expansive and such a command over, you get a feel for this time of day and the air and the distance, great distance, right?
Yeah, you're right. And I also just noticed, Patrick, that there are two other people to the right. I didn't even notice that person. I'm wondering now.
Oh yeah.
If you do art for money, you're kind of dependent on your patrons, and sometimes they make you do things that you don't really want to do. So they might have wanted those horses that people.
Sure. Yeah. True.
Charles, when you say you want to see us do a painting like this, what aspect of it? You mean the composition or the
it's just
scale or what?
It's a stunning painting. Now, I said the same for myself. Like I'm not at a point where I could do this. We can all do our own thing. But I just meant it in the sense that we're all out there painting plein air, and I want to see everybody continue to develop, including me. Okay. So who's this? I've shown this painting to classes. It's Corot. Remember Corot? Much later, the French. He painted people too. I'm looking for the date right now, but yeah, from 1865. And one thing I love about Corot is he always gets those little white spots going around the painting. You don't even know what they are, but they activate the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. It's not snow, and it might be butterflies or flowers.
Could be pollen.
Pollen. Is that you said?
Yeah.
That's pretty big pollen, isn't it?
They're really big flowers it came from.
Oh, all right. And a friend said once, with Corot, you always look for the red. I'm not sure. Maybe that guy's hat has red in it. I think it does. But I love Corot.
Hmm.
Okay, here is another Corot, and I like this one even more, I would say. So this is called the Arch of Constantine and the Forum in Rome. And it used to be common for artists around this time in Europe to make a campaign to Italy, to Rome especially, and paint the runes, the classical rune. So, 1815, this was 1843, maybe they had a train then, but even before that time, they would take horses down there and paint the Roman countryside in the ruined classical buildings. But this is just a beautiful painterly sensibility here. I found this painting this guy had never heard of, and I just love the painting, so I put it in there. Anton Mauve, called Early Morning Plowing, 1875. Now, I'll take back what I said about wanting you to do the Van Ruysdael. Let's just try for something like this.
Mhm.
Simple, moody, very believable. And I'll show you once again, after Velázquez, probably even more than Velázquez, the biggest painter for me has been Manet. This is the bullfight. And why Manet? A lot of things, but Manet was a great admirer of Velázquez and Spanish painting in general. And it just has a lot to do with the facility of the brush. So if you look around, it's like in the drapery. Now this isn't a major Manet, okay, but if you just look at radical cropping, like cropping the bull at the bottom, characteristics of painting at this time in France. And look at in their costumes, especially, you just see these dashes of paint that capture what he's trying to tell us. One brushstroke.
Hey, Charles, when you sent out info to people about the Frick, did you mention the cocktails with a curator videos?
I did. I'm glad you
Okay.
brought that up. Yeah.
Because I keep seeing these things, and there was something about this painting, because those cocktails with a curator, those were one of my lifelines when we were all locked down in the house.
Ah.
And I think this painting has been cropped, or there's another similar painting
You're
that was
right.
like,
I read that.
cut
Mhm.
down. I can't remember, but when this came up, I'm like, okay, this is like the fourth one that I remember from Cocktails with a Curator. And for anybody who hasn't looked one of those up, they are really great videos. I mean, they're not long, and they go into detail about a lot of, a lot about certain works that they have in the collection.
Yeah. Who is that talking?
This is you talking right now?
Yeah.
That's Susan.
Susan. Okay. Thanks again, Susan.
Yeah, it's like there were a number of museums who did these things, but the Cocktails with a Curator was the one I watched the most, and they were on like they did them like every Friday at 5 or Thursday at 5 or something, and you had the option of making yourself the cocktail that the speaker was going to have.
I have watched some of them, and I wanted to put that in there. So the link is in the email, and check it out. It's fun and friendly, and you get a close-up look. And they did. I read something about how this was cut off the top of another painting. I think it was. It was just I couldn't quite figure it out, but
Yeah,
I
I don't remember.
um,
The
so
other really interesting thing is that portrait of Lady Hamilton. There's
yeah.
a whole backstory to Lady Hamilton. So, like, if you watch that one, you will learn all about her.
that would be interesting too. So I hope you guys will check that out. Okay, I only have a few more. So they do have sculpture at the Frick, and this is the terracotta for Zephyrus and Flora, by the sculptor Claudion. I never heard of Claudion, but obviously it's a stunning, beautiful terracotta. And I wish I knew. I don't know. I know what terracotta is, but I'm not sure about the whole process of it.
Usually, terracotta is like a red.
Red clay, yeah, but is it later? Do they make a plaster cast from it and cast it bronze, or is it just? It's not the finished piece.
I know that typically Barry uses like an oil-based clay, and then she'll make bronzes from that. I don't know necessarily like the process from terracotta, but it's a low fire glaze. It's a low fire clay body, so it's very accessible too. And then you had a lot of like food dishes used to be made out of that.
Okay, all right. Well, you wouldn't want to knock it over when you're at the Frick because like it's big and it's just stunning. It reminds you of the great classical marble sculptures from that period. Like I can never think of their names, but the classical world was still important in Europe, or at least through this time. And this is from 1799. And this is another sculpture called by the artist Vecchietta. This is the Resurrection, 1472, low relief, bas relief. And so classical art, religious art was just what you had to do back then. Portraits. Landscape painting, we looked at some that were a little bit later, but landscape painting was not taken very seriously for quite a while. And this is in the major courtyard that I showed you at the beginning. It's called the Barbet Angel. It's a big, beautiful sculpture of an angel. And another sculpture, Francesco Lorana. This is the sculpture that was the artist. The sculpture is Beatrice of Aragon. I spent a lot of time on these things. I don't look up every single person, so I don't know who that is. I wish I would have. So a few more of the some interesting pieces coming up, but yeah, here's the first one. They have a lot of in the way of what we usually call decorative arts or furniture. So that's what a lot of it is. But this is a gilt brass coach clock watch from 1645 from France. So yeah, our friends from the Art Thief, they would have swiped to this, definitely. Oh, they knew it was an amazing book if you haven't read it. I know Andrea read it, right? Well, Andrea told me about it. And I sent it to my daughter because this is exactly the kind of museum that they stole from. And another amazing piece called, it's a rhinoceros clock from 1770 with all kinds of precious pearls and jewels that were used to make it. I don't know if you have if you want to find out what time it is and you have kids in the mansion growing up, put that one high up out of reach.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And this is really cool. It's called a secretaire. It's just like a little writing desk. And this belonged, oh, geez, I didn't write it down now. I can't remember. It was someone really famous. I want to say Mary Queen, 1785. But could that be Mary Queen of Scots?
Wow.
Anyway, this was the actual writing desk of some really, really famous person, and I didn't put it in my notes. But
I'll
they
see
had
if I can find something.
What?
I'll see if I can find something.
Okay. Yeah, go right to AI. It'll pop right up. But they have a lot of wonderful throughout the whole mansion is furniture, but it's all furniture that has some kind of history like this. And back then they had these writing desks with the ink. You had to dip the fountain pen in the ink well, and if you see this in the movies when they're done writing, they have some paper that they blot it with.
It was Marie Antoinette.
There you go. All right, Marie Antoinette. Can you believe that?
Wow.
It's crazy.
They could have fit her head right in that center part of the box.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I thought that was amazing. I had to put that in at the end. So we're done. And I just want to say, if you ever go to New York, be careful of the subway.